welcome back to Cynthia's Artful Living. And today we're going to be making some pretty things with alcohol inks and stencils. I hope you enjoy this video despite the fact that some of the things that I've done in here are a little bit out of order, maybe a little bit redundant, but you know, I scrub past that and get to the end. And this is part one. There'll be a second part next week, I hope. Enjoy. To get started on today's project, I have here Yupo paper, which is a plastic paper. This is a 6x6, and this is just regular opaque paper. And then this one right here is also Yupo paper, but it's translucent. And I think this is like a 9x12 sheet here. So you can kind of do some interesting things with the transparent. In fact, maybe we will with this when we're finishing, create a little lantern or something. I've wrapped the paper and taped it, and you can put like a battery operated candle inside. It kind of creates a pretty cool effect. So also, as I mentioned previously in the introduction, we have my flower stencils, and there are 3 of them, and they actually come, I'll just briefly show you, like this. So in other words, I cut this one out of the frame. So the irises, you get both of these. One is the mask and one is this is considered a mask. This is the stencil. So you have that one. I'm just going to use this for now. And then there's, just really quick, you have these. I forgot what this one's called. What is this one called? That type of flower. A canna lily, I think it's called. So again, the stencil and the mask, and we're just going to use the stencil. And then last but not least, there's snowdrops and the mask and the stencil for that. So, all right. And then the other thing that I'm using is alcohol ink. And these are, I think these are Ranger. Is this Ranger? Yeah. You can use any alcohol ink, and you can use any colors. So what I've got is 2 pieces of the translucent Yupo paper, and I'm going to put 2 of these on one. And so what I thought I would do is get organized here. I have the irises right here, and then I'm going to put the snowdrops right here. And so I already selected some different colors to use for each of these. Now what you want to try to do is, or what at least I recommend, is you want to keep things in the same family, because when you're using alcohol inks, they blend together and you can end up with black or grays or browns or a muddy color that you might not want to achieve. So I try to keep things all in the same family. So this one is going to be purples, and I think I have a little bit of yellow that I want to try to make an accent. But again, because purple and yellow are complementary colors, if they intermingle too much, you will end up with a gray or a brown. I'm going to go ahead and put this down, and I'm just going to start to drop some of these colors on here. And then the main thing for this is it requires patience and waiting for the alcohol inks to dry. And you'll see it's going to seep underneath the stencil, which is okay for what I'm doing. You'll see when it's dry. Okay, so that's those. One thing also about these, because it's alcohol, it does evaporate pretty quickly and easily, so I try to cover them up as I'm done with them. Maybe we will put some green in here. Some green maybe on the leaves. Maybe I will do that. Sort of a yellow. Maybe that's where I'll try to use like a yellow green. So right now what I've used is a wild plum, raspberry, and purple twilight. Let me see. This looks like kind of like this is citrus. That's really yellowy enough. Let's see what else I've got. Let's go ahead and try this citrus. And I'm going to drop that into kind of more where the leaves are. This one's called Lemonade. Just leave this just like this to dry, and also you can add or spritz. Oh, what did I just do? I think I just took the, oh, there we go. You can spritz some more alcohol on here to kind of give it some different, oh, I think that was maybe a little bit much. It'll come back together, I hope. So I'm going to leave this, and you can kind of see it's starting to seep under the edges of that stencil. And so now I'm going to move over here. Okay, so let's start out here with, this is lettuce. I'm going to just get some greens in here. Oops, I want to try to maybe have the flowers not be so dark. This canna lily one. And for this one, let's try something just a teeny bit different. I'm going to spray this with the Yupo paper with some alcohol first. I can get my sprayer to work. And then I'm going to, actually let me put this one in the middle, because if I decide to make one into a lantern, it might be nice if this were in the middle. Okay, so you know, being wet, it sticks a little bit better there. And let's take these off. I wanted the underside, this part's dry, but this part always takes a little longer to dry. Let's see what this is going to look like. We're just going to peel this off, and you can see some of it is still, see if you can see it there. You can see that that ink is still a little bit wet, but let's just go ahead and take this off. Now I can spritz some alcohol on the back of this and then set it on another sheet of paper and get the opposite imprint with that. Let me get back out here. So you can see that that kind of turned out pretty interesting. And I don't know what else I'm going to do with these yet. I might come back in here with some ink and some black ink and do some more work, and maybe I'll do some just abstract things on the side. So I'm not going to do that tonight, but we'll see about that later. So let's see how these other two turned out. So here's the irises. So it's still a little bit wet under there in some places. Again, I'm going to keep this because look, I can look at all that lovely color on there. I think this is really cool how that turned out up there. And last but not least, Let's see how you can grab a corner here, how the snowdrops turned out. So there you have it. I'm going to think about these a little bit, let them finish drying, because underneath the stencil it's a little bit wet still. But you can see how interesting the edges, you can still see the image even though it's seeped underneath because of the way the alcohol ink kind of, I don't know what the word is, it congregates at the edges. I just think it's really pretty. Well, I thought, I have an idea for this one, and it's gonna have to dry again, but I think I'm going to, I don't know what colors I'm going to use. Maybe I'm gonna go ahead and use some green because it is a complementary color. I just want to put some more of this in here, and then I want to do a subtractive technique after this dry. Some other places, I'm not sure I like that color combo. I was trying to make it complementary to the red. But you get to see my mistakes too and the things that I do that I don't like. Now I'm going to just sort of see, I'm not sure I like this, edges here. Maybe I'm going to spray this a little bit. See what happens to these edges. If it runs into the flowers, I think I'm okay with that. And we'll see how this kind of pans out. How about if we work on this one? Make sure I'm in the right place here. And of course, you know, we have the stencil. So this is what I like about stencils. If I want to come back in here and, you know, define these areas, I can actually use the stencil and trace it. So I was thinking about tracing the flower parts. Let's see if this is even going to work. Actually, these are, I think these are the second set of stencils that I created for Stencilgirl back in, I think it was 2016. And they were based on a coloring book that I had self-published back in 2015, which is actually how I met Mary Beth Shaw, the owner and founder of Stencilgirl Products. I was at an event using my coloring books and products from Marvi Ushida, and I was teaching a class on colored pencil techniques using my coloring books. And afterward, Mary Beth Shaw came up and gave me her card and asked me if I would submit some design samples to her for stencils. And so I did, and the rest is history. And now I have, like, I don't know, almost 40 stencils with Stencilgirl. I think I trace it twice. Let's see how this looks. Oops, if I can get some out. Some alcohol ink over here off to the side and put it on the end of this Q-tip. I was thinking it might be nice to extend that down or to blend that in there. So that, you know, that was the bridge of the stencil, and I'm just sort of blending where that gap was. I don't know if you could see that. Blend that out. So I kind of like it. This is really interesting right here. I don't know if you can see. I'm going to zoom in there. Look how that turned out right there along that stem. The different layers of the color separating out onto the Yupo paper. I'm going to make this leaf connect to the stem. My hand is getting in the way here. I'm trying to look up and see. Well, I'm trying to decide which one of these two stencils to use, and I guess I could try one on one side and one on the other, but this is my best-selling stencil. This one's a mess. I've used it so many times. I think the best way to do it is to use a cotton ball and to maybe let the stencil sit there for a few minutes while the alcohol dries underneath. Kind of get this soaked pretty well. All right, I could tape this down. I'm not going to. I'm going to swipe this on here. And it doesn't have to be perfect, just to give a sense. And as you can see, the ink does stain the Yupo paper, some more so than others. So you can see some of it went underneath here. If I take it up right now, I might want to let it set a little bit. You can see that it's wet underneath there. We could try it gently. Nice. I like the way I did this side because I kind of came in to the other areas, and I can still do that over here. It's now that this is dry. Let's flip this over. Doesn't have to match or line up in any way. By way of summarizing what I worked on this week, I wanted to go back through these and show these to you. These were the lanterns that I created from the actual stencils, which I showed you at the beginning of the video. Sorry about this lamp. I'm trying to get rid of that glare. I don't know, that lighting might not be the best. So this was the Canna Lily stencil, and I've got it rolled up as this lantern now. It's a translucent Yupo paper, and just applied the alcohol ink directly and let it dry, and then I used that Sharpie marker to go back around, and then I did that subtractive technique with this other stencil of mine. So that kind of was fun. And then this one I put the irises on the same sheet as the snowdrops. And so on this one, I did once again use, I'm sorry about the lighting here. I can't win. I'm getting another lamp. It just has not arrived yet. So on this one, I've got the black outlines. And then on this side, I discovered that a white gel pen worked on here. And so I outlined this one again. I didn't really know what else to do with these in terms of mixed media, so that's those. And then I wanted to talk to you a little bit about and show you those ghost prints that I mentioned that you can make with the extra ink that's left over on the stencil. And it usually makes the reverse, although sometimes there's enough ink left on both sides of the stencil and you can get two prints. So this was the Canna Lilies one, and this was the irises, and I really like the way this one turned out, just the way it is. This one's on cardstock, the other one was on printer paper. And I want to just show this to you a little closer. You can see on printer paper it really kind of bleeds a little bit. Like, so if you've ever used alcohol markers, well, a Sharpie is in essence an alcohol marker, and you know how that can bleed through paper. Anyway, this one's on cardstock, and then this one's also on cardstock. And I got 2 of these off the Snowdrops original stencil. And then, so this was one that I think some of you may have seen on Substack earlier in the week. I posted this as a note to say I was going to have a video coming out. So this was the little doodle I did. Well, it's not exactly dark out yet, even though it is about 8:30 here in Michigan. But I promised I'd show these lanterns with some candles in them. And those actually have tea candles in them. I think you can see them flickering. So that's it for part 1. And I will be back next week with part 2, which I will show you what I did with the masks using alcohol ink on opaque Yupo paper. Similar process, but I thought I'd make it as a second video. So until then, have a great